on our half term, so there are no children running around, and it's the best time to catch up on work, on paperwork at least. So I am here, and I'm alone, at least for now. Once again, good morning. Ronald, I don't know whether you want to give me the leading questions or I just talk.
Yeah, I think I will possibly jump in. I'll just allow you to start off with a quick introduction, and then you share with and then as you go, I'll jump in and ask a couple of questions.
Okay. My name is Jane Francis Nakato, and I am the director and proprietor of Kinderkare Schools, which is now Kinderkare International School, and I will probably at a later stage come to that. The school has been running for the last 18 years. Actually, we've made 18 this year. So we've been around, and we've had a lot of support. The school started, I shared this story before. I don't know if the people on this forum had this story, but I'll just be brief.
No, I think actually, Jen, that's exactly where I want you to start. Just kind of tell us where this story began and how do we get to this place?
Okay, so this story started about 19 years ago when I was working with USAID. And I had been, at that time, I think I had been with them for about maybe 9 years or so. And of course, USAID is a good employer, so it paid well, at least at the time, I thought so. So I was comfortable in my job. And then one time we had a new boss who was restructuring us, and he said he was going to fire us in our department. He said he was going to fire all of us. So he told us, if you want your job back, please reapply for it. So it was a shocker, because if you've worked in a place for 9 years and you're comfortable and you think you're doing a good job, and somebody comes in and they suddenly ruffle you up, it was a bit of a shocker. So we definitely reapplied for our jobs. One of our colleagues refused to reapply for his job. He said, I'm leaving. And at that time, if they let you go, it was to your advantage, because you'd get a lot of money in compensation. So he said, I'm leaving, let me get my money. So I said, that was very brave. But personally, I was not ready. I was not ready to leave. I had no other source of income. It was just my job. So I said, I am staying. But in that year, I had come up with a list of things that I thought I wanted to do. So several businesses that I thought, okay, I want to do this. The number one was, of course, to open a kindergarten. But I also had on that list, open a restaurant, do a bit of events planning, and stuff like that. So when that happened, I just said, okay, let me reapply. If I get my job back, I'm not going to sit back. I'm going to start a business. So fortunately, we all got our jobs back. We were not fired. And so I decided to go ahead and start a nursery school. And I have a cousin who is in real estate. I contacted him. I said, I want a school, but I want it in, I gave him the area that I'd wanted, because I knew the kind of school that I really wanted. I knew the target that, the kind of parents I was targeting. So he went on the job and he called me, showed me where we started in Kansanga, and I should say the rest is history. So that is how our first preschool started in Kansanga. Remember that time I was employed. So I had to look for someone to run the school, and I ran an advert in the newspapers, and a lady applied. Well, many people applied, but I could not, when I looked at the applications, they didn't really qualify. The last application that came in was that person, and I called her. I remember we met in at my home because the school had not yet started. We were still doing repairs. We were still setting it up. So she got onto the bandwagon. She was employed, so she told me, I'm still employed, but I have to hand in, I have to put in my resignation, and then I have to hand in and carry on my work up to the end of the term, which really endeared me towards her because I knew that I had got somebody professional. So long story short, we started putting the school together. I would leave work at 4:30 and drive all the way to Kansanga to set it up. And we would leave every day. We would leave around 9. Sorry, the Muganda in me is coming through. Anyway, we would leave around 9:30 p.m. I remember I used to work in Nakato. I used to drive to Kansanga, and I used to stay in Mengo. So you can imagine driving all the way to Mengo at 9 every day. It was not easy at all, but it was exciting, really, really, really exciting, because I was getting to do something that I loved and something of my own. So anyway, the school started in February of 2004. We registered it in 2003, and it started in 2004, February. It was second term, I remember that time. And we started with no history, nothing. And we started with about 5 children. And I was excited. I said, oh my God, you mean 5 parents can really trust someone without that background? But my head teacher was really qualified. And we hired one more teacher who was qualified. We had a cook who doubled as someone to open the gate because we needed to save money. So we started. And my head teacher then, Tracy, really did a wonderful, wonderful job, because those 5 parents invited others. And by the end of the year, by the end of third term, we had increased to about 35. And then the next year was a much better year. And then we moved on. I think after 2 years, the school had grown, and I thought that it was time for me to join the school full time. My contract was due for renewal. I remember it was expiring. It expired in January, and I remember the last day of my work was my birthday, January 31st. And I worked until, until after around 8-9 p.m. My colleagues were waiting for me because it was my birthday. They said, we have to give you dinner. It is my last day of work. I have to finish the reports, send them in. I have to hand in my ID. I have to do all of those things. And then I joined them. I think to date, that was my best birthday party because I felt liberated. And after that, well, I wasn't rich. I didn't have a lot of money. The school didn't have a lot of money, but I felt a sense of achievement, and I felt a sense of purpose. I was really young and energetic and vibrant. I'm still young, by the way, just so you know, because they say a man is as young as he feels. I feel young. Anyway, I didn't have a lot of money, but I had this sense of purpose. I had this energy, and I knew what I wanted to do. So I got my retirement package and invested some back in the school. And of course, like any other Ugandan, the first thing you do is, let me buy land, let me do this, which I did as well. And it was a good package because by the time I resigned, I had worked 11 years. So it was a good package. And so I opened, the investment in the school was opening a second branch. So I looked for another place, and that is how the Bukoto branch came up. So I used some of the money that was in the first branch and some of the money that I got from my retirement package to open the second branch. The second branch, was a hit because now people knew about us. So we got the children pretty fast. And so it was easy to give birth to the third branch. The third branch was actually not really planned for. I was approached by someone who was selling her school in Bugolobi, and she interested me in it. I said, let me go and take a look. The location was really good. We negotiated, and in the end, we opened the third branch. That is how Bugolobi branch was opened. And the fourth branch, which was our primary school, came in as a result of a little bit of pressure from the parents we had then, because we had grown and we had these children who were doing very well, but then we didn't have a primary school, and they kept on going to other primary schools. And those primary schools, in most cases, would make it difficult for them to join because they had their own nursery schools. So our parents said, by the way, why should we keep, running after other schools? Can't we start our own? So, okay, let me give it a thought. I was against it for some time. But after some time, I said, really, we need to outgrow this fear, and then get into this field, into this space, the primary space. So I did some research, and even then I was thinking about either doing the international or the national. But at the time I said, let me go for the majority. The majority we are proposing national. So I opened a national primary school in Kitante. That is how our fourth branch came up. And as we ran along, we had parents who came all the way from Entebbe Road. And they kept on demanding for a branch along Entebbe Road. And for some time we had been looking for space, and we couldn't find space. Eventually we got some space, and that is how the fifth branch on Entebbe Road came up. So well, I think in summary, that is what I should share about our journey.
I think Jen, that's a brilliant background to your journey. I think one quick question which is coming through before we move on is, when you started, did you have a background in education?
Absolutely not. Well, I shouldn't say absolutely, but I had no professional background in education. However, I had taught before, because in my P7 vacation, I taught in a small nursery school on Entebbe Road, Namasuba, because that is where I was born. That is my mom's place. So along that side, in the neighborhood, walking distance, in my P7 VAC, I went and taught in a nursery school. In my S4 VAC, I went and taught in another nursery school in the same neighborhood. And in my senior 6 vacation, I went and taught in a primary school in the neighborhood. So I think maybe teaching came naturally to me, even if I had not been trained professionally. But that is what I used to do in the vacation. I never used to look for jobs elsewhere. In my S6, I looked for a job somewhere, but I ended up going back into teaching. But then when I opened the school, I decided that the teachers are not going to show me what to do. I will not take their teaching as gospel truth. I need to know what to do. So I registered for a correspondence course in early childhood education, a diploma course. At that time, I had my first degree and my master's degree, but they were not in education. So I enrolled for the diploma in early childhood education and did it, which was really, really, really good. It was run by Tiber Schools, and I think it is still there, but it gave me an insight in early childhood education and how to manage the little ones. So I knew that, I knew exactly now what I wanted, what it takes. I could tell a good teacher from a not so good teacher. I could tell what the teacher's needs would be, because now I was within the profession.
Wow. Super. Thanks, Jen. I guess one quick one you'll add. I think Albert was just wanting to hear a bit about the financing of that very first school. I think you mentioned it, but you can just take a minute and remind him of how you financed the beginning.
The very first school was financed from my savings. When in USAID we had a savings association. I'm actually still part of that association. Even when I left, I didn't leave the association. It's now a circle. It has grown into a circle. But by then it was a savings association, and I had saved some money. So back then you would borrow up to 3 times your savings to be able to finance whatever you wanted. So people were able to borrow, buy land, maybe build a house, buy a car, get married, all of those things that young people do. I borrowed, I remember it was by then, it was about 21 million, I think, which was a lot of money. And it was not enough, but I borrowed because now I had stayed on, I had opted to stay on in the job at the time. So I borrowed and started and used that money to start me off with the school. Eventually, I had to engage DFCU because that was my bank for an additional loan, and I was using my salary account. And in fact, when I engaged DFCU, they eventually, that is how I got introduced to Enterprise Uganda, because they sat with me and said, wait a minute, you are borrowing, but do you have any education in running a business? And did I? No, I didn't. So they said, there's this wonderful program for empretecos. If you can join it, by then it was a 10-day program, every day intensive. And they said, if you join, I think it will give you a better perspective on how to run your business. And DFCU actually partially sponsored us. I think it was ladies. They were focused on ladies back then. And they partially funded us because it was expensive. And then I joined, and life will never be the same. I can tell you that. It will never be the same.
Thank you, Jen. I guess that starting bit about the question about saving, and especially the people who are running the business on the side, it's always a challenging thing. But in a way, you are financing your business from your salary and your savings. And I guess a number of people start right there. But as you have rightly put it, how you can be able to scale it can be quite a challenge. Yeah, so Jen, I want now to take us to that point when we are getting here. You have 5 branches, 5 nursery schools, a primary school. Business is moving great. Somewhere in 2019 over there. So where did this COVID thing find you as a school? And what were those initial responses that you had when you noticed that the foundation, or the very foundation you are seated on, was being shaken?
Well, COVID, I should say COVID, really, everyone knows it somehow sneaked in, because because we got to know about COVID and we thought it was a Chinese problem, and that, like all the other SARS and what, it would stay in China and it would be managed there, and we can move on with our lives. So it sneaked in. We were all not prepared for it. As a school, I should say we were not prepared because we thought, well, it is something that is going to be managed and handled. So when the government of Uganda officially communicated about the lockdown, before the lockdown, we got a warning that in maybe 2 days' time or 3 days' time, I think, they are going to lock down. They gave us notice. I remember the government gave us notice, which was really good. As a school, I remember we sat, we had a quick meeting and said, we have our parents' email addresses, at least we have those. Let's do classwork and homework and schoolwork and post it via email to the parents. And then we wrote to the parents and told them, kindly download that work and print it. We don't know when the schools will reopen, but we don't want our children to remain redundant, because by then we thought maybe it was a 1-2 week, episode and it will pass. So we sent the information. Parents were happy to receive the emails, and we waited. But of course, as we progressed and slowly we came to the realization that we were not going to open, we had to go to plan B, which was Zoom. Fortunately, I had already encountered Zoom because I was in the final stages of my doctoral program. My doctoral program had been a mix of in-person, Zoom, and then online on the university's, I should call it maybe Blackboard. So I was familiar with, very, very familiar with Zoom, and I knew it would work. So we quickly held a training program with the teachers. We called them in. We had some training sessions on how to use Zoom and Google Classrooms. So we held those sessions, and we didn't, as a school, our teachers didn't have personal laptops. We had a few laptops at the school, but mostly we had desktops, which we couldn't transfer to, to the teachers' residences. So some of the teachers took the laptops, but most of them were using their smartphones. So the training went well, and they quickly caught up. I must commend our teachers. They were really, really positive, very positive about everything, and they were determined to go with the flow. And I kept laughing at them because initially I used to tell them, guys, let's embrace technology. And they would say, but teacher Nikki. And I told them, now you have no way out. So they embraced it, and then we started online learning. We didn't stop. We did not stop up to the end. We did not stop. We only stopped during the holidays, but the learning continued.
Wow. So you didn't have any moment of denial, because I think a number of other schools took a bit of time to get there.
No, I think that exposure that I had received really, really helped me, I should say, in hindsight, that it really helped me, because I knew if you can do a doctoral degree in via all those channels, because then you can do primary, secondary, or any other studying online. So I just we didn't want to have that break where children are going to sit home, because from experience, when children sit back home, even during normal school days, they come back when they have forgotten a number of things, even during the normal school breaks. After 2 weeks, 3 weeks, especially the little ones, they forget the concepts, they forget how to write, you have to start all over. Even the older ones, it was such a challenge, and we didn't want to go into that space. So for me, there was nothing like denial. It was a blessing in disguise.
Amazing. What was the reaction of the parents, the customers? How did they receive this new reality? Did you see pushback? Did you see denial from their side?
Oh, yes, from some of them. I remember there's a parent who called me and said, Teacher Nikki, this is not going to work. You're not giving consideration to parents who can't afford, who don't have laptops, who don't have smartphones, or who can't afford data. And then I said, but this school of ours, she gave me an example of schools, upcountry schools. And I said, we are not going to compare our school to upcountry schools. We are not those schools. I'm sorry if it sounds maybe callous or insensitive, but I said, we are not going to compare ourselves to those schools, because those schools have the government to look out for them. You are my business. So I said, let's sacrifice. I remember recording myself. I recorded a video, which I sent to the parents, and we had a list of the things we requested them to do if they can afford them. The smartphone, if those who could afford a cheap printer could get a printer at home, because it was turning out that there was a lot of working from home anyway. Some of them needed those things at home. So I said, let's try and see what we can sacrifice within our budgets at home to be able to afford data. And I gave a good example. I said, I don't think there's a parent in our school who has never taken their children to Javas. And so when you go to Javas with your 2 children, minimum you will spend is 100,000. And with 100,000, you can get data, at least. You can even get a smartphone. It may not be the best, but it would work. So I gave those examples. I said, guys, we need to change our outlook. We need to change our perspective. We need to go with the flow, because we do not know when the schools are going to reopen. Eventually, they caught up. Of course, there were those who didn't. There are those who didn't come back. Up to now, they left the school because they said, we can't do that. We will wait. They waited, but there are those who stayed. And I must say, most of them stayed on. The biggest challenge, though, was for the preschoolers, because the preschoolers with Zoom, as you all know, it's really, really difficult to get them to pay attention. So with those, the teachers were recording the classes, and then we were sharing the classes via WhatsApp and via email. And it worked. It worked for some it didn't. So I can't say it was 100% solution, but it helped.
Wow, I guess hearing about the reaction from the parents who are your customers is such an interesting thing, because I know even from the parent side there was a lot of pushback because I think the change wasn't only with you, but it was also with the rest of us who are your customers. Indeed, I guess one other group I wanted you to speak to is your relationships with your suppliers, your bankers, the people who give you services. The school has several service providers who are also kind of dealing with this reality. What happened in that relationship? What changes have happened in that relationship? And I mean, where are we now with it?
Well, I think that's a very good question. Of course, we were indebted to some of those. We remember the lockdown happened, I think, about a month into the term. So we had purchased, we had this thing of purchasing our stuff in full. Like we purchased all the food, all the stationery. They would give it to us in advance, even if we had not paid them, fully paid them. So we still had their debts. We had rent in all the 5 branches. None of them belong to us, so we are paying rent. We had a loan from the bank because we had borrowed to do some repairs and what, but we had borrowed initially and had used that money. So we were about to start paying back that money. So we had a lot going on. So the first thing was to call the suppliers and talk to them. And all of them were really, really understanding. They said, we've been with you for years and we will wait for you. In fact, I remember one of the lessons that I picked from our training with Enterprise Uganda was that have this relationship with your suppliers, keep your list of suppliers. Don't keep jumping from one to the other. If you have your 1 or 2 suppliers and they know you and you have a history with them, it is easy for you even to get goods from them when you need them and you don't have money, which is what we were doing, which is what we did. So that was very, very good information, because initially we had several suppliers. I remember the people who were in charge of purchases used to say, no, we've not gone back to this one because his prices are high. So we've gone to this one. Now the other one. And I told them in a meeting, you know what? Even if the prices are slightly high, let's keep this relationship, because these relationships matter. And in the end, this is what saved us. As for the landlords, we talked to them, but we also made tough decisions. We closed off some of the branches. The first one we closed was Bukoto. Bukoto was nearer to Kitante. So we moved those children to Kitante, and we said, we communicated to the parents of Bukoto and of Kitante. The parents were really very, very supportive. In fact, they were happy. They said, because we had parents who had children in Bukoto in the preschool and in Kitante in the primary school. So they said, oh, this is going to work out really nicely for us, because that will mean when we are dropping children, we drop them in one location. So we closed off Bukoto, but we still had a debt, which we have not yet actually totally paid off. And then our landlord in this was an experience, because I got to learn how to probably stay calm, but sometimes I would flip, I should say, because our landlords reacted differently. The landlord of Lubowa met me, and she said, that was in 2021. She said, 2020, don't pay me anything. Don't pay me anything. Can you imagine? And then she said, 2021, I'm going, she reduced the rent for 2021. They are people who are like that, and God bless her, really. But eventually I had to close that branch because still staying there meant that I needed to be committed to that rent, and I couldn't stay committed. Because our branch in Kitante, for instance, is an expensive place because it's in town, and we needed to keep that. So we made the tough decision eventually to move out of Lubowa. Then Bugolobi, I was ready to stay. I paid until I finished the debt. And then the landlord in that branch at some point said, you know, I have someone who is offering me more than what you're paying. It got uncomfortable. And then I decided, let me leave the branch for now, which I did. But I'm happy to say that we are having discussions to go back because the place is still available. So that one should reopen soon because we don't need much. We kept all our furniture and everything. We had renovated it with the money that we had borrowed. We had renovated it. So I don't think we need much to get into that. But yeah, those discussions are going on. And so if you're on this forum and you are a parent from Bugolobi, just know that we will get back to that branch soon. Yeah, so that is how we managed the suppliers. Then we paid off, we started with those that we owed little, like, you know, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. We started paying them off in phases. The other landlords, we made a payment plan to pay them off slowly. And I am sure by the end of this term, we should have paid off all those debts. Unfortunately, we had to, because it was a lot of money, 2020, 2021, and it is a business. So we have to meet, even if we're not working, because the money that came out of the online learning all went to the teachers. We needed to keep our teachers. So we needed that money to keep them going. And even then they were getting about 50% of their salary. So it wasn't enough to meet their needs, but at least it was there. So whatever we were getting was for the teachers' salaries and for their data, because they needed data to be able to teach. Yeah.
Wow. Great. I think I wanted to just push back a bit on the teachers. What percentage of your teachers did you keep, and are they back? Did you keep all of them? Did you lose some of them?
Surprisingly, for the primary, we kept all of them because they were teaching. For the nursery, we let go of many of them, unfortunately. Why? Because we needed about 2 to 3 to do the recordings and be able to share. So we sat down and let go. But the good thing was that even when we let go, or even before we let go of some of them, they had actually got children to coach. As parents know, the nursery teachers it was a good time for them because they got businesses teaching children in the neighborhood. And many of them told me, oh, we are doing this. And I said, bless you. If that is going to keep you alive and you know that you're going to get an income, please go ahead. Because as a school, we could not afford to keep them on because we didn't know for how long they were going to stay. The primary, we lost one teacher, one math teacher, and we didn't lose him for the sake of losing him. At the time, he also was teaching children somewhere. So when the first lockdown ended, he came back, but we had already replaced him. So we kept all of those teachers. The surprising thing is that we lost 1 or 2 of them when the schools reopened. That is how we lost them. We lost them because a number of teachers, stopped teaching, went into business. So many schools were actually looking for teachers. And of course, the natural thing was to maybe poach from others or call the others they knew. So unfortunately, we lost, I think, about 2 of them at the beginning of this term. And so, and we lost them at the on day 1 of school. So you can imagine our head teacher was sent into panic mode, looking for a teacher. And you have to look for a good one. You don't look for the sake of looking. So it was such a big challenge. And when I called my colleagues who are running schools, they were all going through. I don't know if there was anyone who wasn't going through that. All of them were going through that at the beginning of term. And of course, the parents do not want to hear those stories. For them, where is this teacher? You have not done enough to keep this teacher. You should have done enough to keep, you know? So it's not an easy thing.
I can imagine.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, but the rest stayed.
Wow. It was a jungle out there as teachers were crossing and looking for one another. I want to bring in our audience. If you have a question, please put up your hands. Just put up your hand, and you can. We can let you ask the question. There are a couple of questions which have come in the chat. I will ask those. I will ask those in a moment. But I wanted to just quickly, quickly tell us about your prospects, what you see, how the future looks like now that the economy is starting to reopen. What's your perspective about the future for your school and for the business, but also more broadly?
Let me tell you something. For me, it is difficult for one to know that I'm stressed. It is my mantra, it is in my nature to stay positive. Even when I'm totally broke, you will never know. Why? Because if there's something I can do about a situation, then I'll go back and think about the next step and move on. So because for me, in my nature, I believe in positivity. I know that now that we are fully opened up, they have no way, they have to get better. There's no other way. Because when the lockdown happened, of course, the closure of schools affected so many other businesses. You can imagine the food suppliers, the whole value chain, food, stationery, and our parents were also affected. Some of them lost their jobs, and some of them lost their businesses. There are schools that totally closed and gave up. But now that we are reopened, our parents came back. There are those who left. And that happened in all the schools. There are children who will never go back to school for whatever reason. But I believe that things are going to get back to normal. Why? Because everything is now opened up. If I was running a bar and it was closed for 2 years, now my bar is open, the customers will come. Ugandans love happening. Restaurants are open. Stationery, bookshops, and all of those other businesses are now open. What does that mean? It means that the person who was doing that business, whether a farmer who was selling eggs to school, didn't have business then, now they do. Those who are selling food to us, now they can sell their food. So things are going to get better. What we need to do, I think, is just be discreet with our finances. Just be careful on how we spend, on how we commit to new ventures, and then plan. You know, you can get. For us, what we did, we used the lockdown to, first of all, come up with a new strategic plan, because the old strategic plan had expired. So within our new strategic plan, we have our financing, which is going to be annually. We know that we are funding this for 2022. For 2023, this is what we are focusing on. For 2024, especially now that we change the curriculum to international, there's a lot that we have to do. There's a lot that we have to put in place, but it takes a lot of money, which we can't now throw to the parents. We have to do it in phases, but things are going to get better. I know that for sure. I am positive.
Super. I think in a way you have answered Millie's question of how do you keep sane with all the happenings around you. I guess that the answer which you gave is pointed to that question. Millie also wanted to know what your business support structure is, the business support system how do you keep going? What kind of structure have you built around yourself? And also possibly take Albert's question. Albert is asking the emotional attachment you had again, also versus the obligations you had with here he gave the example of Luboa, but I imagine all the others. Especially also that wanting to maintain, you talked about wanting to maintain good suppliers. That emotional attachment, how do you overcome it? And was the branch making money? Might be thinking that it wasn't, but if the branch wasn't, how do you overcome that kind of that emotional journey of walking out? If you have a question, please don't hesitate. Just put up your hand and you raise your hand, and I will be able to give you an opportunity to chat away with Jen. Roger, did you want to ask a question before Jen comes in? All right. Great. I think Jen, you can go ahead.
Okay, so that's a good question. Emotional attachment. Yeah. For instance, Lubowa. Now, Lubowa is the best example. You have this wonderful landlord, even Kansanga, but Kansanga, at least we are still there. You have these wonderful landlords, but you have this wonderful landlord who tells you, you're not going to pay me 2020, you're going to, I'm reducing for you 2021, and yet finally you make a decision to leave the branch. It was not easy at all, but she is such a wonderful, understanding lady, because I called her and I told her I am in this catch 2020. What can I do? What can I need for me to stay in this branch? It means that I am going to commit to pay you, even if it's reduced, but I have to commit to pay you. And yet I have all this unpaid money in the rest of the branches. I would rather cut my losses right now and get out of this branch, because you also need money. If you find someone to take it up, well and good. If you don't, and we are ready to get back, then we can always get back to the branch. She made my request so easy. She understood and she said, it's okay, I understand. And so when we were ready, we moved. The other branches, like I said, we had already left them. One of the things that I've learned is that sometimes you need to take emotions. In fact, most times you need to take emotions out of a business decision, because if you're overly emotional, it can lead to your downfall. Because your assumption is that the other person will not understand. That person will understand because they know what is going on. So you have to talk to them. You have had a good relationship with them. They will understand because they are all going through that. So you don't get overly attached. You cut your losses. You become humble. I remember when we closed, I said, hey, this is where, when they tell you be humble, this is a good definition of being humble. You can't keep on saying, oh, because I have 5 branches, and then you're seated deep in debt because you have 5 branches. It doesn't make sense. And yet we can work, we can even re-evaluate and say, do we still need the 5 branches? Can we get another location? There are some other locations out there. And when time comes, we can actually get those locations. But even then, it was another eye-opener, because for some time we've been saying we need to get our own home. That doesn't mean we would leave these other locations, but we need to build a home that we can call ours, in a place that is that is maybe affordable. So we now, in our strategic plan, to answer even partly some of another question, is we are planning, we are saving, actually, not planning. We are saving. I've gone back to the basics where I started, to save a portion of some money and put it aside to be able to get a good chunk of land to build a proper school. So that is in plan, and that is our next big plan, among other plans. I don't remember the other question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think yeah, there is a couple here. Let me see who is. Someone now has their hand up. Yes, Roger, I think you can go ahead and ask the question. Rogers, Mawanda.
Oh, this is hello, just for my but we work together with Roger Mawanda here. So we don't sit together listening to discussion. Thank you, Jenny, for all that you have been able to share with us so far. Are you hearing?
Roger, we're hearing you, not very clearly, but
oh, okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
For my, this is Jasper. I work with Roger, so we are together at the moment. I am using his line. Jamie, thank you for all you so far shared with us. I am listening keenly to hear more around your business model. Of course, you presented it in various ways. I'm sure later we'll be able to present it and share it with us. My concern is the speed of expansion of your school in the various locations of suburbs of Kampala, and the associated overhead costs that probably generates for you. In a COVID environment where parents have moved children to other schools, that probably affected their income. Now, my concern is with the present facilities or lease, have you, based on this experience, thought about, apart from building from scratch, your own school facilities, have you approached your banker, CFU, for example, or others, to plan for you schools that are struggling but well located, where you can buy facilities, or even commercial structures that are wide enough to be able to accommodate the learning arrangement? I just wanted to think loud around that one. Thank you.
I don't know if I heard Rogers clearly. Ronald, can you kindly, if you heard him clearly, can you summarize for me?
Yeah, I think I picked bits and pieces from Rogers' question, but I think at the heart of the question was how you have engaged with your bankers, especially given that there is a restart, and this was a punch which you took not by your own making, but the circumstances around you. I think Rosemary had asked a similar question. How have you engaged your bankers to be able to walk this journey with you?
Okay, we have been engaging DFCU actually even before the opening. We have had a series of calls and letters and meetings with the bank, with DFCU. DFCU, if you're on this forum, just know that maybe you need to, they've been understanding, I should say. However, as a bank, I think they are there maybe to make a profit. And what they did for us was to, what do they call it? To push the payment period until the terms open up. But that doesn't mean we are not paying the interest. In fact, for a business person, it is to your disadvantage because now your interest accumulates. So that is a negotiation we had recently with the DFCU, and I was asking them, can't you at least reduce the interest rate within the period of 2020-21 knowing that we were not earning. Can't you do that? They said, unfortunately, we can't. And then I engaged them on a notification that went out to the banks. Then they said that was a guideline. It wasn't it wasn't a must for the banks to take it up. So the banks are using their discretion to either forgive you or push your loan to a later date. So in our case, this is what we did, because the deductions usually come automatically during the beginning of term. And so we had those discussions, we wrote to them, they accepted to push the loans. But it is working against us because you still have to pay the interest, unfortunately. So that is where our biggest actually challenge lies. That is where our biggest challenge lies. So we made a decision as a school, in our accounts department. We said, okay, let's plan to pay off this loan. In a few years, we should be done. But I think we need to make a decision not to go back to the bank for some time, or if we can get a cheaper loan elsewhere, that would be the option in future. So for now, our focus is on paying back that loan as fast as we can, but also comfortably, so that we have enough left to be able to run the schools. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I guess that's one of the, and a number of businesses are working through a similar scenario, especially with the credit facilities. There were businesses which had nothing to do. I mean, for the last 2 years, if you are at school, I think Lucia here has mentioned she was making sweaters. It means her business is also equally aligned to the school business. So you find that is a complication. And I think that one of the lessons which we see coming through, and from what Jen has mentioned, but with a number of our clients, is the question of that, how much data business can be able to take on. It's clear that when things are going well, debt is an amazing tool to grow the business. But in times of shock, it is debt can become the big rope around your neck. And I think, as Jen has said, it's clear that for the next 2-3 years, it will be kind of unwinding that rope. But it also changes your strategic shift. I'm excited to hear about getting a location and saying that you settle into a home. It is, I think, a powerful thing for us as business owners. So that sometimes you have a bit of that control. Sometimes it feels, I think, that you grow a bit slower, but it ultimately may be what you have the ability to stand on. If there are any other questions, please do raise your hand. If you want to ask Jen a question, there are a couple of comments in the chat box. I'll run through them in a minute. We have Rosemary says, excellent tips on humility. Francis says, I wish to congratulate you for how far you have moved and the decision you made to quit your job. I think Francis went back to the beginning. That's a fascinating decision, certainly. To know how you are able to manage all the branches, you personally being there, because I'm currently running a youth-led company that I'm currently trying to open many more branches. So how did you manage the separate branches? Philippa says, thank you, Jane, for your beautiful sharing with Inspiration and Enterprise Uganda. A lot of thank yous. Albert says the same. Millie says, how do you deal with license issues? Do all your branches have to be registered with or each has to have a separate one? Yeah, I think that's a quick question you can touch on, Jen. Lydia is saying, thank you for your inspirational story. Lucia, yeah, Lucia is the entrepreneur in school sweaters. who says it was similar hit. Daphne, nice to see you. Asante sana, Jen. Also learning, great. So Jen, you can just address those questions and then we can
Okay.
Millie wants to ask a question possibly before you come in. Let me allow Millie to ask and then you will answer once. Millie, over
Hi,
to you.
Jane. Lovely to have you on this conversation. I've put most of my questions on the chat box, but please talk to me about your support system. For us as entrepreneurs, as managers, as directors, sometimes I feel like I'm burning out alone with nobody to support me, yet everybody thinks I'm a rock. Please talk to me about that. Thank you.
I will start with the last question. Millie, that is a fantastic question. Yeah, when you're running a business, people think you are too strong and you would manage. You remember you have a lot on your hands. It was one of the trying times, I think, having gone through those 2 years of not earning. Up to now, I still wonder how I manage as an individual to go through them, because you have these families that have depended on the school and suddenly they are not earning. I remember one of the things I still regret up to now was I started making calls maybe to the head teachers, finding out how they are. And I called them and said, call our staff, call our teachers, find out how they are. I couldn't call them because I didn't know what to tell them. It is one of my biggest regrets. I couldn't call them. I couldn't bring myself to calling all of them because I didn't know what to tell them. But when I talked to the head teachers, I said, assure them that we are doing our best. Whenever we get something, we will be able to do it. But there was no one calling me apart from maybe family and friends. Don't underestimate the value of family and friends, because family calls you. My mom kept calling me saying, Mulimutia, how are you doing? I remember the first, when they had just locked us down, she asked me, Katyo ina sente zarasomesa, awonokolotia, do you have money for teachers? She lent me 7 million shillings from her savings, my mother, who is 81 years old. She said, Kankwe sentes, no, you see how you can pay the teachers. Because at that time, we still thought they were going to open us up. And I used it to open, to pay the teachers. There's a project that we have at home with my mom. So when the money comes in, if I owe her, I tell her, take from that and pay yourself. And that's what she did. So she lent me that money and I used it and I paid off without even knowing that I was paying off, because she was getting from the other project to pay back. But that is how much family can support you. My brother, my twin brother, is a farmer. Let me tell you, I had more food than I needed. He would always send matoke, bananas, gonja at home. My fridge was full, but I wasn't using my money. I had no money. You could not know, but I had food. I had food. And at some point I was thinking, I wish I could find a way of sending some of this food to my teachers, but we were under lockdown. The border couldn't go all the way to where teachers were staying. We had food left in the stores at the schools, which we distributed to the teachers and the support staff. And well, at some point, of course, it all got finished. But I got surprise calls. One of our staff members, a lady that works at the elementary school, she's in the kitchen. She called me. She's called Rosette. She called me. She said, Teacher Nikki, all you out here. I've called. And at that time, she wasn't earning. The support staff were not earning. Every time I think about her, I even feel emotional. She called me to find out how I was doing. She said, Madam, I've called to say hello to you. For me, it was powerful. It was powerful because I realized that there are people who are thinking about you. She said, Mani oino I don't even know how to translate this in English for those of you who can't. But she said, you have a big burden. And I know as people who work with you, we are looking to you to pay us. But who is looking out for you? She called me and said that. So that was so powerful. That support system is so crucial. And when you're a strong person, you don't want to talk about your problems. People have their own problems. You can't even call them and say, I'm going through this. They were all going through the same, even worse. Me, yes, I had that burden, but I had food on my table because my family were supporting me. My friends were supporting me. But it is so, so crucial because I know people who went into a depression because they couldn't handle. They became depressed. Fortunately for me, I was, the beginning, 2020, I was busy. That is when I was finishing up my doctoral program. So it was an opportunity for me actually to stay home and do all my assignments and hand them off. So I just focused on that. I said, now this is my opportunity to finish and hand over and graduate. The business, people are getting what they are getting. Beyond that, it is not in my control and I'm not going to fuss over it. And that's my mantra. I don't fuss over things that I have no control of. But then it helps to get a call from people now and then to find out how you are. Enterprise Uganda, at some point I remember receiving a call from James Akamai, twice. I'm calling on behalf of Enterprise Uganda to find out how are you doing? How have you dealt with this? How do you think we can support you at this point in time? I felt good because you checked on me. So it is really, really important for you to have that support system, your friends, your workmates, and your business partners. By the way, the other thing is the business, not partners as such, but the people who are running schools. We were calling each other now and then. How are you doing? How are you dealing with this? I remember calling Miriam of Miriam Wifla, Florence, we were calling each other. How are you doing this? How have you managed? How are you paying? Me, I'm doing this. Me, I've closed off this. And that was really, really important. So if you need to have a list of friends from the same business, that even when you're doing well, you need them. Even when you're not doing well, you need them because you will make mistakes along the way. I'm still making mistakes. The business is 18 years old, but I'm still making mistakes. So, and I'm still learning, even from people who are running schools, who have run schools for the last maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm still learning from them. So you need those people. Another one, licensing. You're right. Yes, it may be costly, depending on where your schools are located or where your businesses are located. You have to get a license for each of those locations. So I had to get separate licenses for all the branches. But it's not that expensive. You can factor it in the administrative costs of the business. So it is an administrative thing, and we pay. We have to pay. You have to remain in their good books. So I pay per location. Then someone asked about the separate branches. How do I run them? And again, this I learned from the trainings that we got from Enterprise Uganda and other places. The power of delegation two things, delegation, but also training the people and trusting them to do their work. Each branch is run by a head teacher, and that head teacher is there to manage the day-to-day running of the branch. But at the same time, we have systems that we work with, both electronic and also some systems that we've created within the business. The electronic systems enable me to see what is going on you log in and look at the system and see what is going on. For instance, the number of children we have, the teachers, who is doing what. We have that system. It's fairly new and we are still trying to manage it, but it is working for us. But otherwise, each branch has a head teacher, and that head teacher is in charge of the day-to-day running of the school. The parents get to that head teacher first. They don't get to me, because otherwise I would run mad. They get to the head teacher. If the head teacher needs my support, they will call me. So once in a while, I go to any branch. I don't make appointments, I just go. And I check them out. I see what is happening. I see what needs to be done. I get fresh eyes to the branch and support them in any way. So it gives me also time to be able to do other work, research, the strategic planning, and all the paperwork that I need to do. So you have to trust your people to do what they are doing. Of course, like most businesses, once in a while you may get somebody who is not able to run the show, but then that is where the training comes in. You need to support them. You need, when I was doing my doctoral degree is in education policy and planning and leadership, stuff like that. Within there, we were told about equipping the people you work with. If you are a business owner, do not start blaming the people you work with if you have not supported them. There is something that we call a model that our university uses. It's called KMO, knowledge, motivation, and organization. Knowledge. What knowledge have you provided for your people? What do they know about the business? What do they know about their particular job? As a head teacher, what do I know about being a head teacher? As a cook, what do I know about cooking? As a teacher, what do I know? And what do I need? How can I be equipped to do what I'm doing? If you have not equipped your staff members, then you cannot blame them for the mistakes they make. You need to equip them. You need to make sure that you have staff development every now and then. When we were starting the international curriculum, we trained for 9 months, 9 solid months. We were training the teachers every Saturday to be able to learn what the Cambridge system is all about. How is it delivered? Because it is a different ball game altogether. But we needed to know. I needed to know. So we all were there for training. So if you have not given them the knowledge, the care, then do not blame them. First provide the care and then continue supporting them. Then the motivation. What kind of motivation? And motivation, people quickly jump on money. No, it is not just about money. Yes, money is a factor. But how are they feeling? Are they feeling well? Do you support them? Do you say hello? Do you how are they motivated? Do you provide what they need to be able to work? Because some of them will tell you, I am demotivated. As a teacher, I need, for instance, I need teaching aids in my classroom. And yes, I can make teaching aids, but I also need these. Have you provided them? In the past, even now, we have not provided enough. But if you know that you haven't provided enough, at least you know that you can plan for that in your budget. So that then they get motivated because they know they are equipped, they have what they need to be able to run the business, to run their job. And then the organization. How has the organization assisted the people to do their job? Are you detached? Because you think your school is 18 years old, you have got where you're supposed to be? No. As an organization, you have to be deliberate to see how you plan for your staff members to be able to do what they're supposed to do. Are we there as a business? Maybe not, but at least now we are aware. So we are using the KMO model to run our business to get to where we are going. It is one of the reasons we decided to do a new strategic plan, so that then we introduce the strategic plan to the staff members. Eventually, we will introduce it to the parents so that we are all working in the same direction. Because you might have your strategic plan here, but do the people know where you're going, which road you're taking? They don't. If they don't, then you need to work together. So that's I hope I've answered your question.
Super. Jen, we have just a couple of minutes left. I will allow you to make your final remarks. I think one question which has come up about this switch of the curriculum, I know you touched on it in your submission, but you can quickly talk to that switching the curriculum and just make any final remarks. Chigwe has just, yes, Godfrey, you can unmute and then speak. Godfrey, are you there?
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mukasa, for the opportunity, and thank you very much, Madam Nakato, for the presentation. Okay, I missed some minutes in the beginning, and maybe my question is based on what I missed a bit. And the question is, what motivated you to venture into the education business, and how impactful has the Enterprise Uganda training been to you in your business journey?
Yes, you missed a bit. In the beginning, I talked about how the schools that.
Okay.
In the beginning, I mentioned how the school started. I think at the back of my mind, I was always going to be into the school business because I mentioned how I used to teach, how I taught in my P7 back, how I taught in my S4 back, and how I taught in my senior 6 vacation. But the driver, the biggest driver, was the threat that I got from my previous job, where they threatened to sack all of us. And so it pushed me into starting. I know that so many people want to do something, but they procrastinate and they keep putting it off. And I was doing that. So the fact that they told me, we are sacking you, you're going to lose your job, it pushed me into starting, because even when I got the job back, I decided I'm going ahead with my plan, and I got the job back, but I didn't lose on the plan to start. And then you said, how has Enterprise Uganda supported me? I do not know where to start. Because if I had not been introduced to Enterprise Uganda so many years ago, I think it was 2008, I still have that certificate somewhere here in my office. if I had not been introduced to them, I don't think this business would have expanded to the level it expanded, because there's a lot that I realized I didn't know. I'll just mention a few courses we've done over time with Enterprise Uganda. Customer care. Sometimes you think that you have good customer care and you don't. So we were trained, we still go for those. I still send our head teachers, our other staff as and when the training come to go and receive those trainings. Costing is one of the biggest challenges. People don't know how to cost their businesses. Even for us, it was a challenge, for instance, when we were switching curriculums. So we said we want to provide an affordable education, but at the same time, people have this bias that international schools are very expensive. At the same time, international schools have their demands that require money, accreditation, buying books, all of those things, even paying. The teachers in international schools are paid way more than the teachers in the national schools. Reason being, a teacher of international school teaches all the subjects, all the main subjects, at least all the 4 main subjects, while the national teacher teaches 1 to 2, maybe sometimes 1. I'm a teacher of math and I'm not teaching anything else. This one teaches math, English, global perspectives, science. They teach all the stuff. So they get paid a lot more and they do a lot more. And it takes a lot to pay them. But costing and saying this is how much we are going to charge the parents, because we needed to balance and target parents like you who are on this forum, yeah, who don't mind paying maybe 2.6 million for a term, but to get a good education for 2.6, where others are charging 15 million a term, 20 million a term. I have done Kalango in a way. So, but costing, going back, so costing is one of those. Financial management, financial planning. Oh, important. What I didn't share was that earlier when I just started that school, and I shared this in the other forums where I had an opportunity to talk. When I just started the business, I used to pay myself. You know, you write yourself a check and pay yourself. But how do you know how much you're supposed to pay yourself? How do you know that what you're paying yourself is not affecting the business? Or how do you know that you're paying yourself little? So as I sit now, I know right now, the school is paying me very little money because they can't afford to pay me now because of the COVID. But at least they are aware and they know how much I am worth as a director of the school. So one of the things we learned in the financial management is that be on that payroll as a director, so that every month when they are paying everyone else, they know how much to pay you. That way, you're not going to affect the business. You're not going to go onto the account and withdraw as and when. Right now, even if I withdrew money from the account section knows, they are aware, and I would put director and I would pay it back, and they would ensure that I pay it back because it is there in the system, which initially I was not doing. So all of that training and much more, you know, collaborating, how to make relationships, how to the succession planning. Now, that is something that I've not yet worked on. It is in the process, but it is quite important for this business to be able to continue. If I went to my maker, who will run the business, it's important for parents and people to know that the business is not about me. It is about the parents, it's about the children, and the people who are around are able to run it even without me. That is why the systems are important. And that is the other thing that we were taught in Enterprise Uganda. How do you put systems into your business so that the business is run on the systems? not when I was doing my doctoral program, I was not around much. I wasn't, but the schools continued because the systems were working. So that I picked from Enterprise Uganda. I could go on and on and on and on. But if you're one of the people listening to me right now, and you have never visited Enterprise Uganda offices, it's not too late for you. You can go and visit them. And I think Ronald will tell you later. But I have kept that relationship. I have trained since 2006, I think, or 8, maybe 8. But even up to now, I still go back. I still go back for refresher courses because new things come up. Now we have technology. Ronald, I think that is one of the things you need to bring up and help us. How do you leverage technology in your business? Yes. How do you leverage technology to be able to run your business? Yeah.
Super. Wow, thanks a lot, Jen. Lovely, lovely submission. We have totally enjoyed your submission today. It's such an honor to host you. I think Jen made a very strong point at the end. The journey of growing business at Enterprise Uganda, we believe, doesn't end. We are working side by side with each other. As Enterprise Uganda, we are also constantly learning. From this session alone, we have a lot that we have learned. I think Jen was part of the SWEP program where women in business came together. And sometimes a lot of the learning in business is from your fellow business colleagues, which is people working through. I think Jen talked to calling another school owner. So if you look at all your other school owners as competitors, they are actually the only people who may fully understand what you are going through, who can honestly say, I know the journey you are walking through and this is what I'm doing. So we are holding each other's hand to make sure that we can be able to grow our businesses. And that's really the gist of the Business Recovery Series. We are so honored that you joined us. We usually like to end at 10:30. We have overrun by about 6 minutes, but I want to say a big thank you to each of you. Jen, thank you so much. Thank you for being a strong lady. We celebrate you and listening to your story and how the journey has been. It kind of epitomizes those, what we call the personal entrepreneurial competences. We call them PECs. Jen talked about the ETW, the PEC of persistence, the PEC of looking for information. All those have just been kind of shared. But as you have rightly said, the journey is on its way. We are not yet there. We are still moving. So let's keep pushing. Jen, thank you so much for your time. We are very honored that you're here. Thanks everyone who was here for joining us for this session today. The recording will be available to you and on YouTube of this session. But I want to say a very big thank you. And let's keep moving. Let's keep pushing our businesses. As I said at the beginning, please, I'm going to keep the meeting open for another 5 minutes. Share your name, share your contact, share any feedback. Jen, a couple of people may want to reach out to you. So just keep on for those 5 minutes and we get the chats through so that we can be able to grow our businesses. Thanks a lot and have a lovely week.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jude, thank you for that message. Jude, those are our parents who supported us along the way. I hope my kids are taller than me. I should be the shortest person. They need to be taller than me. I should be the average. But thank you so much. Yes.
Lovely. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Simon. Simon, thanks a lot. Simon is a business developer. Thanks for being here. Chantal, thank you for being here. Chantal is asking for your contact. Jed, please do share. James, thank you for being here.
Okay.
Shelley, thanks for being here. We're very glad to have you. You could just put the contact in, possibly your email or your phone contact in there. the chat room. Jude, thank you so much for being here. Jen has shared her contact in the chat room. You can reach out to her. Albert is a digital transformation officer. Albert, I think Jen spoke to the subject of how can we be able to understand the potential of technology. I think that's a conversation which we certainly need to keep having, and we will capture that and make sure we include it in one of the topics we should discuss. Emmy Okello, a financial literacy trainer, thank you so much for being here, Emmy. Bruce, thank you for coming from Bruden Agri Center. The recording, Doreen, will be available it will be sent to you in your email as a feedback, but also you will be able to find it on YouTube under the Enterprise Uganda page. Samson, thank you for coming. We're very honored to have you.